Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name's Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me today, it's all of you. That's right. It is a mailbag show after last night's marathon pregame, watch-along, postgame. I am the only one available today. It's always fun to get to do a solo show and answer all of your questions. We'll do super chats at the end like we always do, but I took to social media to solicit some questions from Twitter and Blue Sky, and we're going to answer a whole bunch of them. We got so many, there's no way we get to them all. There's a whole bunch I didn't even have Bryn make graphics for because, like, what am I going to have, a 3-hour mailbag? Maybe I'll answer some more of them for like our off day next week. Maybe that's something we'll do. But for now, we will do this. It's going to be a good time. And I did something a little different today. Some of the questions that are similar, I'm going to answer them in bunches so we get more people recognized for their questions. We get more answers, all that good stuff. So we start with a trio of questions about the Travi. That's right. Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim. We have one from Adam S. Is Travis Sanheim's contract looking more and more like a bargain? Joe DiMarini. Do you think Travis Sanheim will finish his contract in a Flyers uniform? He has a full no-move clause through 2026-27, and then a 12-team no-trade the remaining 4 years. And finally, from MST, where are the TK's contract is too high contingent? Pretty quiet, I would imagine. We'll start with the Konechny question. I don't know. I mean, there are some people who are like, he's a second liner, and it's like, well, right now he's on the first line, and yes, hopefully, ultimately, they can put him on a second line because they have an awesome first line. But I don't know how many people thought the number was too high. When it was like 10, when the rumor was like, oh, he's going to get 10, that seemed too high. But under 9 right now for a guy who's a point-a-game player, I think he's top 20 in scoring in the league. I don't think anyone thought like, oh, the number's too high. It's what sense does it make to keep a guy who's going to be in his 30s by the time this team's really competing and keep him at a pretty high price tag? Now the cap's going up, and we'll get more and more into that as we go through the questions. But I think it was just kind of, you only have so many assets that are worth anything to trade. That's why you're rebuilding. You don't have that many good players. Travis Konechny, a very good, very valuable player. Why not trade him? Because it seems like his prime is going to be, he's going to be exiting his prime by the time this team comes around. Now, yeah, sure, there's always been the Marchand comparisons, and if he ages the way Marchand does, like, hey, we're going to have a 60, 70-point player into his mid-30s, and that could very well be true. Look at what Claude Giroux is doing right now, like 3/4 of a point a game. He'll be 37 in January. So maybe that's possible with TK, but for me, it was never really that the number's too high, especially when it came in under 9. It's just, listen, I'm glad he's here. He's a good player. I like watching him every night. He's going to be here a long time, hopefully be a productive leader for this group as they start competing in years to come. But it was always just more about, like, does this really make sense in terms of where this team is and where they're going to be at a certain age for him? Like, do the timelines match? So thanks for the question, MST. Now to the two about Sanheim. Adam S. Is Travis Sanheim's contract looking more and more like a bargain? Yeah. You look at some of the comparables, and he's got, I think he's tied for the 47th highest cap hit in the league among defensemen. You see some of the guys around him, it's like, yeah, okay. Especially the way he's been playing, the way he's been a horse. And once again, yes, hopefully down the line, they have a whole top pair of defensemen better than Travis Sanheim. And then you look at that number as the cap goes up, more and more guys sign contracts, 7, 8 years, franchise defensemen that will, dwarf Travis Sanheim's, what I think, 6.25 million he gets per season. It is going to, right now, it looks like it's going to be a bargain. The one question, and it's the same as the Konechny one, is like, did it make sense? It didn't make sense for the Flyers to bring in John Tortorella to evaluate everybody, kind of bring the culture back, and before a season even begins, before any evaluation can be done, for Chuck Fletcher to hand a pretty large deal to a guy who really hadn't proven all that much up to that point. Now, he's been very good since. That doesn't improve the thought process going into it. It does look like it's going to be a bargain, though, especially as the cap goes up. And like I said, more and more guys sign the long-term deals for what will be massive amounts of money. Having Travis Sanheim, even if he's on your second pair, hopefully at some point, at 6.25, like that's a hell of a bargain. And I do think he's going to finish his contract here, like Joe DiMarini mentioned, full no move through 26-27, then a 12-team no trade. And at that point, like unless something happens where they're making a hockey trade with Travis Sanheim, which would be probably pretty surprising. Like how often does a guy with decent amount of term and a decent amount of money get moved for, basically the same thing in return you would hope they would be getting? Like the time to trade him is already passed, or it's like right now and you can't do it right now. So as the contract moves forward, like it won't make any sense to trade him as long as he's still good. Maybe he falls off a cliff at 30 or something and you buy him out. But I can't really see a circumstance where it makes a ton of sense for him not to finish his contract here, because the time to trade him has passed, or it's currently, and you can't. So I don't see why he wouldn't finish his contract, barring any like weird unforeseen circumstances. But he's been awesome for them, especially since Cam York got hurt. He's been a workhorse since Torts got here. It's been a real great turnaround, honestly, for Travis Sanheim. I was never the biggest fan. And he's really, it's not, he's growing on me. Like he had to prove something to me. Like, who cares? But it's impossible to deny. Like he's a really good player now. And I didn't know if that would ever be the case for, really at the time when he signed the contract, it was like, yeah, all right, okay. But yeah, it does appear to be a bargain at this point. All right. Let's go to Ryan Quigley with a question I really wanted to answer, and that's why it's near the top of the show. Which two Flyers are you picking for your team in a 6-man tag match? And I spent way too much time thinking of the psychology behind this, because it changes if we're good guys or bad guys. If we're the babyface team, if we're the good guys. Okay, it's Nick Deslauriers is the constant. It's me and Nick Deslauriers no matter what, because we need the big heavy at the end. Come in, knock a dude out, pin 1, 2, 3. He gets his hand raised. Like that's Nick Deslauriers on either team. And then you get into, okay, well, if we're good guys, we need some sympathy. We need the odds stacked against us, something for people to get behind. So I'm thinking it has to be someone who gets knocked out quick, and that would be a guy with a pre-existing injury. So it would either have to be Ryan Ellis or it would have to be Ryan Johansson. That's how I see that going. If we're the good guys, it's me, Deslauriers, and one of the injured, Johansson or Ellis. So they get knocked out, and now it's basically a 3-on-2 handicap match, and we have sympathy going. I get my ass kicked the whole time. Deslauriers comes back. He makes the comeback, knocks a dude out. 1, 2, 3. We win. If we're the bad guys, though, what roles do we play? So we have Deslauriers. He's still the big tough guy. You would think, okay, Garnett Hathaway, easy. He's he's not a bad person. I just mean, look at the way he plays. He's a bad guy on the ice. Taking falls, drawing penalties, face washing guys. But then what would I do? Because that would kind of be the role I would play. Like I'm not beating anyone up. I would have to be the chicken-ass heel, face washing somebody and running away and going and tagging the big guy. So if we're the bad guys, I think it would have to be, who's the best looking dude? Like like someone you just look at their face and you don't like them because you're like, they're too pretty. Matvei Michkov, good-looking guy, young, cocky guy. Maybe it's Mish because he's he's got that swagger. He's got that face that he's got that just kid face that you're like, if he wasn't on your team, you wouldn't like him. You wouldn't like him at all. So I think it's me and Michkov and Delorier if we're bad guys. There's some options though. It would have to be one of them. Maybe Morgan Frost. No, I'm sticking with Mish. It's me, Mish, and Delorier if we're bad guys. So that's our contractually obligated wrestling question. Thank you, Ryan Quigley, for that one. Now we get to some about the trade deadline and guys who might be coming in, guys who might be going out. We'll start with Zach O's question. Let's get crazy. Name 2 Flyers you think could be gone at the trade deadline in March. Love you guys. I love, let's get crazy. Every mailbag we have 10 trade deadline. What's going to happen? I don't know. It's November. They're 500. I have no, but you look at the makeup of this team right now, and there's not a ton of expiring contracts. Some guys on RFA deals, but I don't know, could Eric Johnson get traded? I kind of feel like he wants to settle, just kind of play out the string, but maybe he wants to go. That's a real possibility. Beyond that, who even really makes sense? The next question, get back to it, from Dave Weigert. Who do you think will be moved at the trade deadline this year? Is it finally Lawton? I would hate to see Risto go at this point, but we got to think about the future. I no longer believe Lawton will ever be traded. I think he's going to play 1,000 games or more as a Philadelphia Flyer. I think he's going to be here as long as he plays hockey. And when he's done, he's going to be with the organization well beyond the end of his playing career. I think Scott Lawton is one of the next franchise faces. He could be Jonesy or Briere or whoever, Homer, if he wants to be. He's the next guy who's just a lifer. I very much believe that. The trade Lawton stuff has ended for me. It's just never going to happen. I'm over it. I've moved on. In terms of Ristolainen, it would be cool to get that $5.1 million off the books. He's 30 years old. He is playing well, though. And you look at this defense, and it's who's really going to be here? Obviously, like I just talked about, Travis Sanheim, sure. He's 28, and he's got, 7 more years left on his deal, so he ain't going anywhere. Nick Seeler, he's 31. He's got some term left after they gave him that extension last year, but kind of going to be a bottom pair guy, you got to believe. Jamie Drysdale, sure, if he is ever able to stay healthy. We like a lot what we've seen from Emil Andre, but they don't have a ton of, at the NHL right now, defensemen. I don't see them moving Ristolainen this year. You just look at his deal. $5.1 million against the cap this season, next season, and the following, all the way through 2026-27. I can't see a team willing to take that on. And I don't know how willing the Flyers would be to cover some of that salary, especially for the next 3 years. It's well, if we're paying him, why not just pay him a few million more and he can play for us? We know they like him, and eventually his role will be taken by Hunter McDonald, but I don't know if it's anytime soon, the next few years. Teams don't really like to trade for dudes with term left on their contract, and with 2 years after this one left for Risto, I don't see it happening. So maybe it's Morgan Frost, maybe that's an off-season move, perhaps. But this trade deadline, I don't know if it's going to be even the speculation. Last year they moved Sean Walker, they bring in Eric Johnson. We thought there were maybe more moves to be made. They weren't made, but tons of speculation. Lots of fun going into the trade deadline. I don't even know if there's that much that really makes sense for this team. Like, you look at the expiring deals among forwards. Noah Cates is a restricted, Morgan Frost is a restricted, and Tyson Forster is a restricted. We know they really like at least two of those guys. And Morgan Frost, maybe he's moved at the deadline, but if he's going to be moved, to me, that's kind of a summer thing. And you look at the defense, they're not trading Cam York. He's a upcoming RFA. He's going to get a pretty good contract, you would assume. And then Eric Johnson. Like, maybe it's EJ, and I can't really think of anyone else who even makes sense. And that's if he wants to be traded. It's not like you're getting a haul for 36-year-old Eric Johnson at this point. So I don't know. I don't see this being the most active deadline. Now, with all the picks they have in the upcoming draft, specifically 3 in the first round and 3 in the second, could be a busy draft. Could be busy that time of year, leading up to, at the draft, right after the draft, with free agency, maybe make some actual hockey trades. But I don't see it happening that much at this deadline. Thanks, Zach and David, for those. And before we go any further, oh, you know what time it is. It's Empire time, baby. 1-800-588-2300 Empire today. Thank you, co-host. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. I've been telling you this for months now, so you know they've got copycats. But the copycats can't beat Empire on quality, service, or speed. So what do? Just advertise low prices on low-quality products that Empire just won't carry. Empire Today won't promise the lowest prices, because anyone who does that, they're putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their own. The Empire philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And you can see them in the virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see new floors in any space. All you have to do is snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details. And while we're here, Empire, they specialize in flooring. Rothman Orthopedics specializes in you. You got joints aching, hands cramping, your back out of whack. Rothman's got you, because at Rothman Orthopedics, practicing specialized care has been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, high quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research. Research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty. Hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard, so you can get back scoring some goals, get back to blocking some shots, dropping the gloves, whatever it is. They root for our teams like no other fans of the country. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. That's a callback. We started with it today. We end with it. Bookending. It's how you tell a story. It's a fun solo show today, Bryn. We're having a great time on a Friday afternoon. All right, we have some questions about Morgan Frost and restricted free agents, things of that nature. So we'll start with Cameron Bryce's question. You've been very vocal about the Frost situation. Jokes aside, what do you think they will do with him? P.S. First Flyers jersey I ever bought was Frost. You either waited way too long or you are just so young. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God. Morgan Frost, drafted in 2017, your first Flyers jersey. All right, Cameron, what do I think they will do with him? I expect his offense to come around at some point, and so we'll all be like, all right, I guess they can keep him. But like I just mentioned in the previous couple of questions, He's a restricted free agent. His contract expires at the end of this season. I guess you could give him another short-term kind of bridge deal sort of situation. But if after all this time, and Morgan Frost, yeah, he has kind of gotten a raw deal in the past, but he's played 245 NHL games. That number is going to go up. It's going to be near 300 by the end of the year. What is he? I don't know. Decent point producer who's very, very streaky, slow starter. Do you want to make a long-term commitment to him? I don't. If I'm the GM, I don't. If I'm Morgan Frost, and yeah, John Tortorella is not going to be the coach forever, and I think it's silly for players to make decisions on where they do and don't want to play based on the coach because, like, this is the NHL. We're talking about firing Jim Montgomery. Like, we're talking about firing Andrew Brunette. Like, coaches get fired. They get fired regularly. They get fired very quickly. Dudes who are in, like, their first season and a half with a team right now are in the top half of the league and longest tenured coaches. Making that decision is foolish, but as we've gone over time and time again, John Tortorella's role here appears to be more than head coach. He has a very, very influential role in determining where this rebuild is going, the direction of the organization. John Tortorella is by no means enamored with Morgan Frost. That can't bode well for how his contract negotiations are going to go. And he can't go and, like, okay, even when I get a new coach, like, Torts is still going to be making decisions and, like, he doesn't like me. He doesn't like the way I play. So I don't think it makes sense for either party to continue this relationship at this point. Now, you do get to the question of, like, centers. Like, okay, well, then who plays center? Sean Couturier, he's been very good this year, especially in terms of play driving. He's scored a little. But he's 31. He's out with a lower body injury. He's day-to-day right now. Can't exactly say I'm confident you can get him through an 82-game season anymore. He fell off a ton last year. Jet Luchenko, yeah, I'm banking on him making the team, but he'll be a 19-year-old rookie next season. Can he step in and be a top six center for you? I mean, he could, but probably not. And then you get into we're back at the Paling, Lawton, Cates sort of thing. So maybe they bring in another center. Maybe the trade with Morgan Frost involves a center, but I just don't think he's here beyond this season. Maybe it's at the deadline. I think it's probably in the offseason at the draft. Perhaps he gets traded. There's no future here. Like it's like the relationship talk. Where is this going? Where do you see this going in 1, 5, 10 years? I don't know, man. The coach still doesn't like him. He's not exactly a prospect anymore. Like, he'll be 26 by the end of the season in May. He'll be 26. Like, it's over. We know all we are going to find out about Morgan Frost at this point. So that's what I think is going to happen. From the Heavy Edit pod, Emile Andre and Tony Dick have come up and shown they're a top pair D-man and top 9 scoring threat, respectively. Are they hiding 2C Zayd Wisdom in Lehigh Valley right now? But really, when are we free of Morgan Frost? Because, damn. I did read in Maddie Campbell's article today up on allphly.com. Check it out for diehards. Sign up to be a diehard at allphly. She's doing some fandoms reporting for us. I think she's doing, like, monthly reports. They're very good. Check that out. We have some supplemental content to help Charlie out a little bit. But the Phantoms report today said, yeah, it looks like Zayd Wisdom's coming on a little bit. But that said, like, my man was in the ECHL at one point. He has had a real tough go of things since that very hot start to his AHL career during the pandemic. I don't know if there's anyone else hiding down there. Maybe like an Ula Lixell, but again, how many wingers can we possibly have on this team? There will be injuries, and we'll get chances to see guys like him. Alexis Gendron scoring a ton. Pretty sure that's the pronunciation. really disappointed in elite prospects. No pronunciation available for Gendron. Gendron? Charlie's told me this before. But, like, he's French. Give me the real. It's probably Alexei, right? Because he's French. We'll come back to that. But I don't know if there's anyone else hiding down there. We'll see how long Anthony Richard, Tony Dick sticks. Emile Andre, man, he has been real freaking good. Maybe he levels off and they end up sending him back down, but I kind of feel like he's here to stay now. Like, this is it. He is an NHL player. In terms of when are we free of Morgan Frost, again, I have to believe it's this summer. I can't see this thing going on any longer. What are we doing? They have no centers. They have nobody who is a good player and a good scorer to play center. Frost is, hypothetically, that. They still don't want to play him. It's got to be over. Thanks for the question. From Adrian. James Myrtle was, what's that say? Catching about RFAs, writing about, talking, I don't know. He was talking about RFAs over on The Athletic the other day. Thoughts on ours? Could they be targets? Likely teams to target them. We do have our own second-round pick. Yeah, so I did a little looking into some potential RFAs, and it's not the most exciting list. Now, Flyers, again, they do have 3 first-round picks, so if they wanted to go wild, perhaps, Evan Bouchard, that would be a ton of fun, right? But one, I can't imagine Edmonton wouldn't match. Even with, like, the McDavid extension has to be their number one priority. Get McDavid done, the number one thing. So you think, like, all right, they have that conversation with themselves like they did this past summer while they're trying to get Draisaitl done. Like, every dollar we put towards overpaying Broberg and Holloway is a dollar we can't give Draisaitl and eventually McDavid. So maybe they have that same conversation about Bouchard, but he is a different level of player than those two. At least he's proven to be to this point. The second part, this would have to be one of those massive offer sheets where you give up at least 2 firsts, a second, and a third, probably 4 firsts. You're like, well, we have 3 this year. We looked into this last year. They have to be your own first-round picks. So you'd have the Edmonton pick, you'd have the Colorado pick, but you wouldn't have those are cup contending teams. They're probably not going to be all that great, despite what the standings say right now. I bet you they figure it out. The Flyers, their own pick is their best chance to get the elite talent they need, and then 3 more over the next, following 3 seasons. That's a real steep price to then also go and pay Evan Bouchard like $12, $13 million, because that's what it would take. A team is going to match unless it's a massive overpay. Edmonton has the money. It's not like you can try what you tried with Chris Gratton and it worked. It was like, well, yeah, Tampa doesn't have $10 million up front, so we get Chris Gratton. Thanks. And what they attempted to do in bullying Nashville out of Shea Weber was like, well, we don't think they have the money, so we're going to try it. And they didn't, but they came up with it, and that one didn't work. But I don't see that working with Bouchard. You just have to give him a massive contract, and that comes at a massive price. So don't think it'll be him. I was intrigued by Jake Neighbors in St. Louis. He signed an extension already. Guess I missed that. But he's a left winger. I thought he'd be intriguing. Like, while they have a ton of wings, they don't have a ton of left wingers. So maybe he's something. Same thing. Will Cully is where I landed on in terms of a winger with the Rangers. Again, left shooting winger. Don't have a lot of those. And they've just got, the Rangers might be a target, if not for the Flyers, a number of other teams, because they have a lot going on. Igor Shesterkin, he's a pending UFA. Have to get that done. Going to be a massive contract. Keandre Miller is also an RFA. He's in the I can't imagine they wouldn't match kind of range, so I didn't include him. But also Capo Caco, he's due a contract. He's a winger. They need something on the left side, but how much money do you really want to put towards wingers when you don't have any centers? So maybe Cully, maybe Kako really don't make a ton of sense. But they're intriguing names, and I think if not for the Flyers, they could be targets for someone else just because the Rangers have so much going on outside of their younger guys. Wyatt Johnson in Dallas is intriguing. He's a center, not off to a great start this year, but he put up 65 points last season. He seems poachable at first sight, but then you look at the money coming off the Stars' books. Jamie Benn is 35. His $9.5 million is done after this season. Matt Duchene's $3 million expires, and he's 33. Evgeny Dadonov, 35. His contract is over $2 million. He's expiring. So Dallas will have the money to match if they want. You can, obviously, the idea of the offer sheet is you overpay to a point that the team says, we can't do it. We just don't see that as the right expenditure of assets. Maybe he's a possibility, but again, how much are you going to have to pay? And then how much are you giving up once you give that somewhat unproven player a star-level contract? Because that's what it takes. You have to give an unproven guy to get the top-end guys, a dude you think is going to be high-end, but isn't quite there yet, but we're willing to pay him like he already is, and then give up 2 firsts, a second, and a third, or, if it's enough money, 4 firsts. That's a ton. Marco Rossi, another interesting one in Minnesota. I looked at Rossi from the Wild because they're against the cap right now, and they're going to get a Kaprizov extension done this summer probably, but also this summer. It's like, oh, well, he's already at like 9, I think, and he's going to get a raise. He might get a, Draisaitl level contract. Their buyout cap hits come off. They don't come off, but Suter and Parise dropped from $14.7 million down to $1.66 for the next 4 years. So that like almost $15 million that they're paying against the cap that goes to players not on their team, that's gone. So the Wild will also have plenty of money to match if they so choose on a Marco Rossi. My point in all of this, because I love I love talking offer sheets, and Charlie loves throwing cold water on the offer sheet talk. I wanted to get into it. I thought it was interesting. I looked up some teams, looked up some guys. Really hard to find a target, especially right now with so much time to sign extensions. Like this time last year is like, let's go get Elias Pettersson. Get him. You got to offer sheet him this summer. And he signed in December? Maybe it was January. Like there's just so much time for these guys to sign that it's hard to find some targets. Plus, the cap might be going up even more than we thought because of this talk of getting a CBA done early and kind of tearing up the old one and going, hey, cap's going way up. It's even more than we projected because we have a brand new collective bargaining agreement. That could very well happen. It sounds like they want to announce that during the Stanley Cup final. If it does, these teams will have even more money to be able to match. I'm not seeing a target right now, but if you think of one that I didn't mention, hit me up at PHLY_Flyers on Twitter. And Blue Sky, Bill Matz, hit me up there. I'm trying to grow that following. I'm nearing 1,000. Charlie already has 2,000. I'm like, you joined yesterday. What the hell? That guy, takes days off. I wrote thousands of words. I wrote 50,000 words this month. It's the 15th. I travel with the team. I know. I'm kidding, Charlie. I love you. As I say, whenever we discuss ideas we have around the station here at PHLY, I always preface with I'm not adding any more to Charlie's plate. That's kind of the conversation. This can be a Bill job, or this can be something we don't do, which is that's what a Bill job is. Something that ultimately doesn't come to fruition. I do some things. All right. I love you, Chuck. I know he's going to listen and be like, oh, he's all... No, I'm joking. Anyway, next question from... This is a great name. I hope this is your real name. I doubt it. Craig Toblerone. Been listening to you guys since before Mark Strite's dick fell off, and I'm not sure I've ever heard this answered. How did Bill and Kelly and Steph and Charlie all meet / decide to start a podcast together in the Broad Street hockey days? It's a very good question. It goes back. So we started, I want to say our first episode, it was like BSH number 79, which the whole back catalog is supposed to now be in the PHLY Flyers feed. But when we got dropped by SB Nation, we had to like start a new feed or like migrate the feed over to something else. And then when we sold it to PHLY, we had to migrate it again to their feed. And some stuff has got lost along the way. So like the whole back catalog isn't there. But I think it was BSH number 79 in like October of 2016. We all started together. But it really goes back like a few years before that. We were... where do I want to start this? Okay, so I'm with the Orange Update, Buzz on Broad, and that got sold to a guy who runs a bar in Old City. I won't mention him, but he was a real a-hole. Got drunk one St. Patty's Day and just blasted us all. Like, none of you guys are talented. That's why I don't pay you anything. Where's all my content? Blah blah. And so we all just quit. And me and CJ Burns and RG Tree, Ryan Gilbert, and David Katai started Sons of Penn. And that was, it initially started as like a 4-for-4 thing, but we just turned it into a Flyers only thing. Because like, what are we going to cover every sport? There's 4 of us. Steph came aboard for that. But previously, I had met Steph. We knew each other through Twitter. And I think she co-hosted the second episode of the Ava Graham Hour, which I was the co-host of before Ava and I were together. Yeah, that's what I do. I weasel my way in with my amazing talk show abilities. I was the co-host of the Ava Graham Hour, and Steph was on like episode 2. And that's how her and I kind of, we started yelling about sports from there. And we did Sons of Penn. And then at a certain point, Broad Street Hockey, like they had a podcast, but they weren't doing it regularly. And all of a sudden, something we were doing for free, Steph and I had an offer. And so we went and joined Kelly, and then Charlie jumped on the show because he was blogging for BSH back then. And in October of 2016, we started BSH Radio and did over like 400 episodes. It was insane. That's where I started doing the post games. That's how it all came to be. Really going back to like probably 2013, 2014, and then going from there. So thanks for the question. I was like trying to think, when did I meet Steph? It was like, oh yeah, it was the Ava Graham Hour. That's what it was. But then it all kind of just grew from there. Like Charlie was on the Sons of Penn show as a guest a few times. And that's how I kind of had a relationship with him, and Kelly was as well. And then suddenly one day got an offer. We're like, oh yes, we will take money for something we were doing for free. Absolutely. So that's how it all came about. And that's how we got to where we are now. Humble beginnings. David Kadai's dad's store. He owns like a party supply store in South Philly. We did Sons of Penn in the attic up there. Now we have like a whole studio. It's pretty wild. All right. Let's get back to some hockey here with a question from Rick Alcorn. Says, longtime listener, first-time caller, love it. What are the odds that Michkov brings home the Flyers' first Calder? The Flyers have never had a Rookie of the Year. I thought there was a good chance Ghost could have won one, but that wasn't to be. There's been a few guys who've been close along the way, but they've never won one. So if you're going to ask about odds, well, let's check Bet365. That's right. Let's just look at the odds. And on Bet365, Michkov currently the favorite at even money. That's right. Bet $1, win $1 with Matvei Michkov for an award that won't be decided until June. He's already even money. He is a slight edge on Logan Stankoven, who's plus 180. And everyone else, it's like, yeah, Celebrini might catch up at some point, and after Celebrini, it's a pretty long list. I might looking at Lane Hutson's odds, it's like maybe he's worth a couple of bucks just because he's playing so many minutes in Montreal. That could be something you might want to look at. But Michkov's odds are as good as anybody. When you look at the rookie scoring race, he's right there. Leads all rookies in goals with 6. He has the same number of games played as Stankoven, and Stank has him by 1 point. 14 points, 4 goals, 10 assists on Dallas, while Mish, 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points in 15 games. So that's your, that's your rookie scoring race. And yeah, you see, Lane Hutson there at 10, man. It very rarely goes to defensemen. I was just looking this up. I think it's like 4 defensemen and 1 goalie have won in the 19 years since the lockout. It's just not all that often given to a defenseman because it's going to be a stats award. Not every beat writer follows every team and knows what rookie's doing what. So what do they do? Exactly what I did. Sort by points, see who's in the lead. They get my vote. Perhaps there will be, even if, let's say, this holds, and Stankoven beats Mish by like a point or 2 at the end of the year. I do wonder if it will be taken into account that like Stank is on a player is on a team that scores. He's not like the best player on his team. He's 3rd on his team in scoring right now. Matt Duchene has 20 points. Mason Marchment has 15, and then he has 14. He is ahead of some really good players, though. I will say, there's some dudes here that he's beaten out on the Stars, but there is the usage issue, perhaps. He's only playing, where did this go? Stank is playing about 15:37, and that's where Misha's been the last few games, but he was at like 18, 19 minutes a game to start the season. Maybe as he earns the coach's trust back, that'll go up. So maybe they weigh like, okay, he's got a few fewer points, but he's on a team that scores way less. He's in a much higher role. We'll see. But the betting odds, Misha's winning. Like, he's even money. It's November 15th, and we have an even money candidate. But it's not like Stank's behind. He's plus 180. So the odds are very much in his favor. I think he's going to win. He's getting better. He's coming along. He got scratched a couple of times. Comes back with 3 points in 2 games. Why not? Why not, Michkov? All right, let's get one more in before we do the next set of reads. All right, some questions on goalies. We will start with Totally Kyle. That's good. Do we send Kolosov back after Fedotov's game last night? This is something Charlie and I talked about on postgame. First of all, it depends on Sam Ersson. Like, if Sam Ersson isn't healthy, they need a backup goalie. Me personally, right now, I'm looking at this like, be as cautious as possible with Ersson. 1, why risk tweaking it again and just having this linger all season? If you think it's a 1-week injury, give him 2. Why do that to a guy that you're probably going to task with 50-plus starts this year? Maybe close to 60. 2, we're trying to figure something out. We're trying to figure out, can Fedotov do this? How good is Aleksei Kolosov? Can he keep his head above water? Is he an NHL goalie? Does he need more AHL seasoning? Kind of think he does, but you have this little internal battle going on. Why not let it play out? There aren't a ton of back-to-backs this month, not until the end of the month, so it's not like a backup's going to be pressed into service. So as long as you're like, oh, yeah, Ersson, he's fine, but why do the but? Just keep Kolosov up, deal with the 3-goalie thing for as long as you can. Play this out. Fedotov has had a couple of solid games. Every goalie has a couple solid games. That doesn't mean he's actually good. Like, we saw a Zamboni driver a couple of years ago beat Toronto. Did that guy then get an NHL contract? Like, anyone can play well a couple of times. We need a little bit more of a sample size to decide that Fedotov, oh, yes, 2 good games. He is here to stay. He has played 2 pretty good games, and his save percentage is still like .860, which is very, very bad. I'm pumping the brakes. I like what I saw, and I'm rooting for him. But I'm not like, oh, yeah, well, that solves that. Kolosov, you're headed back. Not yet. Let's just play it out. And why rush Airson? From Kimchi Killa, just need clarification. Was there some kind of timeline concerning Kolosov at the end of October? I hope he won't jump ship on us again, even if he isn't getting NHL minutes. Maybe he sticks around and at the very least gets some AHL time so we can bring him up later. Yeah, we never really got clarification on, like, is he, like, what did the October deadline mean? It was just kind of, yeah, they're going to reevaluate things. Well, he was up by the end of October, and he's played some NHL games. He's been all right. He, like, for a guy who doesn't probably belong in the league, he was okay. His numbers in the AHL, we talked about that last night too. Not great. So I think hopefully this was enough to keep him. But if he ends up wanting a loan back, you know, you can only do so much for these kids. Don't want to lose Kolosov, but you can only do so much for them. And with that, let's take a break and hit a couple of ads. All right, first thing I got to tell you about is our presenting sponsor today, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Just showed you those Calder Trophy odds. You can bet on that and all NHL futures, all NHL games, props, put them in parlays, whatever it is. If you're betting hockey, you should do it at Bet365. And right now, that's right, right now, new users can download the Bet365 app, use code PHLY365 when you sign up, and get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. I've been using Bet365 all season, and while I'm kind of just making them richer, maybe you can watch me on pregame, see my bets, and fade them. Maybe go the opposite way. We did hit one the other night. We got that over. It was 5.5 in Flyers Sens, and they hit 9. That was real nice. That was a real nice win for us. I needed a win. Just put something on the board there. But I've been using Bet365 all season, and I think you should too. So download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. If you need help with your gambling, you call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you need help with your home projects, you call CJAM Construction. I'm trying. I think that was funny. I think that was pretty good. CJAM Construction is a family-owned home remodeler specializing in decks, bathrooms, and flooring, and their goal is to help their clients alleviate the challenges and frustrations that come with home remodeling. Any home project, large or small, is insane. Honestly, you and your partner will be at each other's throats about it. It can get real bad. Probably because you can't do it yourself, right? We think we can, and then it's like, no, man, this is way too big of a project. That's where CJAM Construction comes in. You got to hit them up for all of your home remodeling needs. And be sure to mention PHLY to receive 15% off when you call 856-329-2933 about your next home project. See their full selection of luxury vinyl plank flooring and learn more about the products and warranties on their website, cjamconstruction.com/flooring. All right, let's get back to some goalie questions. So, yeah, we never really got an answer on what exactly the end of October deadline was with Kolosov, but right now he's with the NHL team. He's played some NHL games. I want to see him get more NHL time. I don't think he's ready, but he's treaded water. He was fine for a dude who, definitely needs more time in the AHL. And that's where we get to fly, Eagles, fly. If Fedotov keeps playing this well, will Kolosov be okay going back to Lehigh Valley? He could probably use some more seasoning down there anyway. Yeah, that's the thing is, I know Kolosov thought he belongs in the NHL, and when you look at the Flyers goalie situation to start the year, it's like, what are they going to get? Worse? But it's not like he's been super impressive. It's a lot like what we saw out of him in the KHL. Yeah, for his age, he's doing well. He's not setting the world on fire, but considering the circumstance, he looks okay. And that's what I've seen out of him in the NHL as well. And in the AHL, you look at the Phantoms goalies. He's got an .875 save percentage. Cal Peterson's at like .890 something, .892. And we looked at this last night. Makiniemi is in the 900s. He hasn't played all that well in either league to be making any sort of demands. And hopefully getting this exposure has showed him that. That, like, listen, as much as you have confidence in yourself, you believe in yourself, you're not an NHL goalie yet. It's very clear. I want to see him get more time because he seems to be a quick study. He's excelled in other leagues, but you're not there yet, dude, to be making any sort of demands. And finally, from MST on the goalies, are we worried that Sam Ersson is injury prone, or are these fluky tweaks? That's not a concern of mine yet. Like, I want to be very cautious with this because, listen, man, we know that groin injuries can linger for a whole season or more. They can become a recurring issue. And that's why one of the reasons I want to be very cautious with Ersson right here. But Ersson last year started basically more games than like anyone in the league. You know, it wasn't that many. He started 49 games for them last year, 51 total games played over 2,800 minutes. Actually came in 10th in Calder voting, despite the drop-off last year. But the ringer they put him through last season after the Carter Hart situation unfolded, you would think that would, result in some injury, and it didn't. He was tired, he was fatigued, and he wasn't very good, but they never were like, oh, he's hurt. And this year, it's like it couldn't get more fluky. He hurt his groin when his skate blade snaps, and he tries to push on a skate that isn't there and tweaks something, and then he comes back, and he was good when he came back, but then retweaks it. Like, I just think this is one of those things that, yeah, it feels good, oh, it hurts again. And when that happens, now it's, okay, take a step back. If you, like I just said earlier, if you think this is a 1 week injury, give it 2. What are we rushing here? The front office has told us over and over again, like, the playoffs this year aren't the goal. The goal is to be a cup contender in a few years, not to maybe make a first round this season. If that's the stated goal, then, like, what are we going to put him at risk for? So do I worry he's injury prone? No. My worry right now is they once again bring him back. They're not overly cautious enough, and that results in the same thing happening. And then it's like, all right, now he has a recurring groin injury. This is going to be an issue all season where he plays 2 weeks, and it's like, it's flaring up again. And we know how that can go with goalies. It can just happen. All right. Let's go to a question from L.O. Rich. It's a good one. It's kind of just about the league in general. What are your thoughts on moving to a 3-2-1 point system in the standings? I've seen it brought up before, and the Islanders season last year makes me think it would be a good idea. You shouldn't be able to close a gap in the standings with overtime losses, especially if another team is winning in regulation. Yeah, I very much agree. It's never made sense to me, Rich, that some games are worth 2 points. A game decided in regulation, one team gets 2 points, another team gets 0. But if it goes into overtime, suddenly, magically, this game becomes worth more. And the team that loses can get a point. And the team that wins, they still get their 2. There's 3 points on the line instead of 2 randomly. There's no way to know which games these are going to be. It just happens throughout the course of the game. I've always found that asinine. Whether it's a 3-2-1 point system or no points for a loss, no matter if it's an overtime or a shootout or whatever, or just do the simplest thing. Make points and points percentage, if you want to, the first tiebreaker, but make wins the number one thing in the standings. Make winning the goal. Every other sport, they count wins. In hockey, and like when there were ties and stuff, it made a little bit more sense. Like, okay, each team gets 1. That makes sense because there was 2 points on the line in those. Like, it ends in a tie. Each team gets a point. That makes sense. I just don't get why it can't be wins as first. Like, a team that wins the most games shouldn't finish behind another team that took a few more games to overtime, didn't win them, but they're close and they have more points. Make points and or points percentage the first tiebreaker, but just wins. Wins should be the thing that count the most. It drives me absolutely freaking insane. How we doing on Super Chats, Bryn? We have one. All right, so we can answer a couple more before we wrap up. Let's go to lanccorob. Zach Bond is the best Eagles linebacker since... Who would you say and why? I like the instructions of who would you, not just the blank, but like make it an essay question. See, I have to show my work. Man, he's good. The tandem of him and Nakobe Dean, something we've really missed. But I'll tell you, while in the long term, it's like we've never had really good linebackers since like the early days of Jim Johnson with Trotter and Carlos Emmons and like Nate Wayne for a couple of seasons. He was real good. Not Nate Wayne. That's not who I'm thinking of. Sean Barber. Sean Barber is who I'm thinking of. Absolutely. Like those teams had some real good linebackers. But like in the lead up and during the Super Bowl year, like who was it? Jordan Davis was real good. That's definitely not his name. Jordan Davis is the defensive tackle now. But Michael Kendricks is in there. Nigel Bradham is in there. I'm trying to, like, as I get to the Eagles, the middle linebacker that they drafted and then got hurt in the Super Bowl year. I'm trying to bring it up, 2017. This is killing me that I can't think of this. Where the hell? Defense. There we go. Nigel Bradham. Michael Kendricks. Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks is the name I'm thinking of, not Jordan Davis. It was, 5 letters. But like those guys were pretty good. So I want to give them all a decent amount of credit. Like Michael Kendricks worked himself out of favor, but he was a turnover machine. If Jordan Hicks could have stayed healthy, he was really good too. But Zach Bond he's been damn freaking good. This team, look what the defense did just last night. Granted, I haven't seen a ton of it because we were here doing the watch along and post game. But based on the score, they only gave up 18 points. That seems pretty damn good. So that's my answer about Zach Bond as the best Eagles linebacker since. I'll say Sean Barber because I loved Sean Barber. Do we count? Nah, like he's a linebacker, but he's an edge rusher. It doesn't count. So, all right, we'll move on from that one. Captain Cannon 18. Friedman talking about Yurichek being available. It's David Yurichek in Columbus. Not sure the details of his situation, but is it worth it considering he hasn't even cracked the Columbus lineup? What would it take? The second part is probably the most important. What would it take? Like, if you could make a swap of, like, I'm not saying 1-for-1 Morgan Frost because I doubt that would interest them all that much. But if it's Morgan Frost and some of this draft capital that they have stocked up with all these first and second round picks for Yurichek, yeah, I'd be interested in that. But the first part of the question, is it worth it considering he hasn't been able to crack the Columbus lineup? It seems as if they're kind of, maybe he's just getting jerked around and it's not fair. Listen, we can make that case for some players over the years. Maybe that's the case. I can't imagine, though, if it's a, hey, man, you got to earn your time sort of thing, and you just haven't. I can't imagine that situation was changed here. Now, maybe Torts and Bradshaw get more out of him, and he plays a style they would like, and he acclimates to the system well, and it would all go swimmingly. But it's Tortorella, man. Like what they're trying to replicate in Columbus, like the whole reason they hired Mike Babcock in the first place and did everything that blew up in their face last year. It's like we miss the accountability of Tortorella, and we're trying to replicate that again. And it's maybe manifesting itself in the way Yurichek is being treated. Well, the actual John Tortorella is here. So, like, I can't imagine it going too much differently. That said, Shaw and Torts have gotten a lot out of some defensemen. So who is to say? And before we wrap up today's show, we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show now. And what will be more of the show? We have a bunch more questions. Maybe I will do a standalone mailbag that we air like next week or something on our off day. But I want to get to this. The lone super chat from Spiral Out. Spiral Out, you have been with me since pregame, watch along, postgame last night. Very much appreciate your contributions once again today. Spiral Out says, citywide special on me for the solo show. Cheers. Cheers to you, my friend. And happy Friday to all those who celebrate. That will do it. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. All right, yeah, that's it. Make sure you're following us right here on our YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button, follow us, set that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. We'll be back tomorrow with our regularly scheduled pre- and post-game. Make sure you follow us on PHLY_Flyers for all my in-game tweets. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. That's it. My name is Bill Matz. I am alone today. Thank you, Brenna, for all of your hard work over the last couple of days as well. Thank you all for listening and hanging out. Let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.